We finally get to see the life of the loved ones Daredevil left. Foggy continues to do his thing, while Elektra took on the mantle of continuing Daredevil's legacy. However, who is this mysterious person Elektra encountered?
In a new bookstore about to open downtown, a woman with glasses sets up different books on the shelves for the store's soon opening. A voice in the background thinks about how life can be tough, but it is really important to try your best. At the same time, a really big purple teddy bear can be seen. Nearby, a little kid asks her mom, the woman we talked about earlier, if they can go. While the mom looks at some books without much worry, the mom tells her daughter that there are other kids who are waiting their turn to read. And she tells her to be patient too. She looks out the window and sees a young man with orange hair wearing a jacket running past their store. She finds this interesting and leaves her work for a moment to go outside and try to catch up with him. But sadly, she can't catch him because he's gone far away. The talking voice on the recording smoothly changes to Foggy speaking. He wants to show that the system doesn't just hurt people's feelings, but also causes real problems, like not having a stable home, not having enough food, and even getting sick, like with cancer. He says the system is made to stop people from fighting back, but he wants to let Mrs. Singh know that she's not alone in this fight. He promises to help her, and his team will support her against Stromko. Mrs. Singh is really sad about her husband who passed away, and she really hopes that others don't have to go through the same thing. Foggy stands up from his desk and goes over to her to make her feel better. He tells her that his team will speak up for her in the legal battle against Stromko. He also says they asked the EPA for information and started a test of the water near Stromko. Foggy also says that if the EPA isn't being honest, they'll make sure everyone knows the truth. And just then, another person starts talking, saying they have already started doing interviews. A new person in the talk is introduced as Cole North. He says he is set up talks with people who used to work for Stromko. These people are okay with sharing what they know. Cole tells Mrs. Singh that he is really committed to finding out the answer she needs. She believes him and gets up to leave the room. Foggy goes with Mrs. Singh as they leave. He promises to keep her updated about anything important before the trial. He tells her to give his contract information if anyone wants to talk to her. Mrs. Singh says thanks and goes out. After she is gone, Foggy asks Cole if they have everything they need. Cole says yes, and he points to papers about how Stromko got rid of their waste. Cole says getting these papers legally was a challenge to prove the company did something wrong. Foggy remembers he has to go to court soon. He puts on his coat and they both leave the office. Cole says goodbye and says he is going out of town to visit another Stromko place. He suggests meeting at the office tomorrow. Foggy agrees but says he might be late because he has another meeting first. He sounds a bit far away as he talks. Foggy becomes quiet when he sees a person with orange hair and a mustache, wearing a grey coat. He looks like he's seen a ghost from the past. Cole notices Foggy's reaction and asks if he is okay. Foggy says he is fine, but admits that he felt surprised when he saw someone who looked familiar, even though it happened 6 months ago. Cole says he felt the same way sometimes. Seeing the same person, he thinks these moments remind them to keep helping others. Foggy agrees and says these sightings might mean something important. He thinks about how likely or unlikely it is, and then he says it was actually Matt Murdock, which matches with the name of their firm, Nelson North Legal Services. On a regular city street, a van is driving with 2 people inside. The person sitting next to the driver asks if they are at the right place yet. They are annoyed because they have been driving at night for a long time. The driver answers back, says he's been driving all night. He thinks the person will get used to it because their boss always makes them do these trips. The driver gets more and more annoyed because they are running out of fuel. The driver gets really mad and asks the person if they filled up the gas when they stop for food. The person gets defensive and says they did. And the problem is something else. The driver makes fun of them sarcastically and says it's just their bad luck to be working with someone who is not good at their job. The person gets super frustrated and gets out of the van suddenly. They are determined not to tell anyone about the problem and start saying more. But then they stop talking and their face shows that they are shocked and scared. Something has caught their attention. When the person gets out of the van, he sees a sharp weapon called a size stock in the gas cover. There's also a burning wick next to it. This really scares him, so he quickly runs away. He tells the driver to hurry and come with him. The driver does not understand what is happening, but he gets out of the van too. Before he can ask questions, he takes out his phone to call their boss. He tells their boss about the strange thing that had happened. The phone call is silent because the boss does not answer. Both of them are really scared and they are starting to look around quickly to find places where someone might be hiding. They both hold their guns, ready in case they have to fight. One person suggests waiting for more people to help, but the other person interrupts and says no one else is coming to help. They are all alone. The scared person feels really overwhelmed and upset. They thought their job would be easy, and they are upset their boss isn't helping. Suddenly, a voice breaks the tense quietness and talks to the scared person, asking about what their boss might do. Without thinking, the scared person shoots their gun, but they missed. The scared person is sweating a lot and looks really upset as they try to figure out where the voice came from. Someone hidden talks to them again, making fun of them and asking what more people could do against something really bad. As Lady Daredevil, Elektra embraces her new identity and jumps into the fight from a high spot. She thinks about her past and how she used to scare people without them knowing. Now, her enemies can prepare for her. She is really quick and careful with her two sharp blades. This is clear when she faces two opponents. With amazing skill, she expertly uses her blade to block a shot that was aimed at her. She changes the direction of the shot so that it hits one of the bad guys in the shoulder instead. With a strong feeling, Elektra realizes that her enemies must be really scared now. Feeling deep fear inside, she grabs the person by his face, quickly taking away his weapon when they are really close. Then she pushes him down hard. While she was doing this, she remembers how she wanted to face these enemies at least once. This makes her understand how Matt, as Daredevil, used to do things. She doesn't stop and keeps holding the other person's throat until he passes out. She is showing that she is determined to stop bad things from happening in her area. Then she takes the driver's phone, but someone on the phone tells her that things might have gone too far. They are worried about what she is doing and what it might mean. Elektra tosses away the driver's phone casually and turns her attention to the van. She goes closer and opens the back doors, finding them empty, which surprises her. She uses her communication device to talk to someone on the other end. This person had managed to hack the driver's phone. She tells them about the strange situation. The person on the other end sounds surprised and confused. They say that the van was supposed to have guns in it. This makes Elektra wants to find out more. She talks about her efforts to track where the bad guys started, which was in Jersey. She mentions they stopped to get gas too. She says that the gas station camera didn't show them taking anything out of the van. She tells Alice not to worry, that things are okay. She realizes that being Daredevil means making people scared sometimes. She promises Alice that she's got things under control. Elektra goes to a fancy place called Kitchen Hunus, where she is looking for someone who knows Matt well. This person is Butch Paris, and he is also the son of Kingpin. Butch welcomes Elektra and offers her a drink. They talk and Butch says he thinks it's good that Elektra is helping people, even though it involves getting in the way. Elektra explains that she only gets involved when people are being hurt. Butch says he is using his dad's last name now because it's important in the area. She asks if he had anything to do with getting rid of the guns. This is a big question because a lot of dangerous guns are showing up in Hell's Kitchen. Butch goes on to clear up a misunderstanding that Elektra had. He takes a sip on his drink and explains that he was actually taking the weapons out of the city. Elektra responds with sarcasm, saying she understands. Butch goes on to say that he did this to keep the two bad guys safe from someone named Hammerhead, which he agrees sounds kind of silly. He says he did it to make sure Hell's Kitchen is safe, just like Elektra wants. Elektra doesn't agree and says Butch made a big mistake. Instead of getting rid of the bad weapons the right way, he sold them somewhere else. She talks about how this could hurt a lot of people. Butch admits he has been doing things that are against the law, kind of like how Elektra does things. He has looked into her and even knows her full name. Changing the subject, Elektra points out to an old vase with the word Qianlong on it. She talks about how Kingpin likes to collect things like that, which hints at his dad's interest. Butch seems like he is about to talk more about the things they both do outside the law, but Elektra changes things suddenly. On purpose, she drops a valuable vase and breaks loudly. Butch is surprised and asks her what she is doing, but Elektra doesn't answer and starts destroying the rest of Butch's fancy things. She explained why she is doing this. It's to free Butch from the influence of his dad's bad history. She wants him to be different from his past. She talks about how he can stop the cycle of crime and violence in Hell's Kitchen. She knows everyone has limits, and now she understands hers. To show that she is sure about what she is doing, Elektra stabs a fancy painting with her weapon. Butch just makes a joke about her acting like a kid, but Elektra keeps going. She compares Butch's reason for hurting people to her own past. She says he does it for himself, not because he needs to survive. She knows from experience that this kind of life isn't fulfilling. Before she can say more, a specific painting catches her eye, and she stops. Suddenly, Elektra stops what she was doing. She sees a really big picture of Jesus on the cross. This kind of religious and serious artwork is in the middle of Butch's expensive stuff, and it confuses Elektra a lot. She is surprised and doesn't know why this painting is here among all these valuable things. Butch notices she's looking at it and asks her if she's changed from being an assassin to a religious person now. After a moment, Elektra gets herself together and talks with strong determination. She tells Butch she is going to keep a close watch on him. She is holding her weapon ready, showing she is serious about making sure he does the right thing. The lady without fear leaves his fancy building. She moves gracefully through the city tall buildings. Before she goes, she says a simple goodbye to Butch, telling him to be better. She lands on top of another building, taking a break. Rain starts falling, making everything calm. In a rare moment, when she is alone, she takes off her mask. Her hair moves with the wind, and the rain gets stronger. Enjoying the peace, Elektra takes a moment to rest. During this quiet time, she talks softly to herself. She thinks about how she is trying to make things better and mentions someone she cares about, someone she loves. In a quiet park, a man sits on a bench with a sign that remembers Matthew Murdoch. Foggy's voice breaks the quiet when he talks to the man. He says sorry for making the man wait because he has been so busy. He makes a joke that maybe he is not as busy as the man he's talking to. Richard looks at Foggy and talks about how life is always moving. He is glad he found time to meet with Foggy. Even though he is busy too, Foggy sits down and asks Reed about his family. Reed talks about a recent trip to Arizona, but he also says there's always some worry that follows them. Foggy agrees, saying that problems always seem to find people, like what happened to Matt. Foggy brings out a chessboard, a gift from Matt to Reed. Reed takes the gift and thanks Foggy. He knows it is important because he and Matt used to play chess a lot. Reed remembers how they played chess when they met. Foggy talks about how much Matt liked those times playing chess with Reed back when he was around. Foggy changes the conversation to talk about religion and its importance in culture, something he and Matt often discussed. He wonders if Matt might have escaped a bad situation, as he feels Matt's presence around him all the time. But Reed interrupts and tells a story from his own past. He remembers when his mom died when he was 7, and for years afterward, he had seen her in different places. Every time, he'd get really excited, hoping that maybe she didn't really die and she'd come back to hug him. Thinking about this, Reed realizes that even though his mom is in his memories, his mind tricks him into thinking he sees her. He talks about why people write down history, make art, and remember people who are gone. It is a way to make sure they are not forgotten. Foggy agrees and looks sad. He talks about how much he misses Matt and wishes he could come back, just like some of Reed's superhero friends. He asks why Matt can't do the same. Reed agrees and talks about how unfair it is. He notices that some people, like his kind, keep avoiding death. He thinks there might be something bigger at play, a force that makes sure certain people live so they can stop really bad things from happening. Reed keeps thinking and says that the main reason for these stories about surviving is to keep fighting for what is right. He believes that one person really shows this. The best example is Matt Murdock. At the same time, without planning it, Foggy agrees with Reed. They both think the same way about this special person. In the busy downtown area, there is a loud noise coming from a store that sells party stuff. Two tough-looking people come out of the store, followed by a really angry woman holding a bat. She is mad at them because they sold drugs to a young person who died because of them just last week. Even though the two-person try to say it is not true, the woman is really determined. She doesn't believe them and warns them to never sell drugs in her store. One of the tough guys, who has blonde hair, takes the woman's bat and threatens her back with it. He says she is not important, even if she is the guardian devil's queen. But then, a nice voice comes in and says, sorry, as a beautiful woman in fancy clothes walks in. She asks about party stuff and asks she wants to have a celebration. The other tough guy, who is wearing a beanie, tells the woman to leave and shows a small knife. He tells her to shop online, at home instead. But the fancy woman isn't scared and tries to talk to the angry guys. In a surprising change, the fancy woman is actually Elektra. She acts fast, she moves really quickly and hits the guy with the beanie hard with her knee. She also says something strong and shows she supports local stores. The guy drops his knife and Elektra throws it at the other guy with blonde hair. It hits him in the shoulder, so he lets go of the bat that belongs to the store owner. Elektra looks back at the guy with the beanie and tells him something scary. She is saying that the bad things will happen if they meet again at the same street. The guy is really scared and agrees, and both guys hurried to leave. The store owner is thankful to Elektra for what she did. The owner starts asking if Elektra is okay, but she says she is fine. The owner sees Elektra's messed up hair and how she kicked the bad guy strongly, and she jokes about it. Elektra asks if the two guys had been bothering the owner before. The owner says yes, and it's got worse when she put out a Daredevil costume in the store. While talking, Elektra realizes the store owner is the same person who once wore a Daredevil mask when the original one was gone. The owner knows this too and talks about how the mask is mysterious. She says the mask lets people hide who they are and not be scared because they are not themselves. She talks about stopping a store called Timepieces from closing in the past, a choice she and her husband made when the area was doing well. Elektra honestly says she doesn't like masks because they get a lot of attention. She thinks masks makes Daredevil stand out, and everyone notices. She gives credit to the owner for the idea of the mask but warns that it doesn't make someone completely unseen. The owner agrees and thinks maybe a new Daredevil is in the city now. While they're talking, Elektra looks at someone from far away. This person wears a black coat and holds a stick. They move quietly and disappear around a corner. Seeing the unknown man far away, Elektra quickly says goodbye to the store owner and starts following him. She goes where he went around the corner. When Elektra gets to the corner, she sees something surprising, a big church with a tall bell tower that reaches really high. The building looks powerful and it seems like it is trying to touch the sky. Curious, Elektra goes into St. Margaret Mary's church, but when she enters, a priest says sorry because she missed the 5 o'clock mass. He tells her time has passed. Inside the church, there are lots of benches in rows. They go toward the big altar at the center, which looks very special. Walking up to the priest, Elektra explains that she needs a place to rest. The priest is nice and tells her that the church is open to everyone seeking refuge. Elektra notices a basket the priest is taking care of. She jokes that the snacks in it wouldn't be enough for a full dinner. The priest laughs and says these snacks are for kids who will have a special time with their parents the next morning. He tells her that the store lady gave the snacks for her to enjoy. He jokes that it is not right to trick a blind man in God's place. Elektra smiles and says she's happy with the snacks. Then the priest asks if they have met before because he recognizes the smell of the cologne she is wearing. She suggests that their connection might be from another time, not just this meeting. The priest is even more curious now and wants to talk more. Speaking thoughtfully, the priest keeps talking. He talks about how people's lives are short and how there will be judgment in the end. He says his caller reminds him that life on earth is just one thing. Elektra is interested, so she asks if he is happy being a priest. He says yes, even though it is hard sometimes. He thinks it is important and compares it to a special honor. He says he can be like a light in the darkness, giving comfort in a world with violence. The priest watches Elektra and she says she is okay. But then she talks about her hard time and losing someone she loves. She says she is still sad, but now she sees things differently. The priest understands and talks about how life is a special gift from God. He says it is even more important when a soul goes back to God. He thinks Elektra explained her feelings really well and that what she said is really true. Getting ready to leave, Elektra gets ready to go from the priest's company. She says she is going and thanks him for being nice and saying she can come back anytime. But before they go, Elektra holds the priest's hand. He didn't expect this and answers her question about being happy. He says happiness doesn't last long, but he is okay and wants others to feel that too. Elektra agrees and says she wants to feel okay too. The priest hopes she finds it and promises to pray for her. Elektra lets go of his hand and goes towards the exit. The priest asks again if they have met before. Elektra just smiles a little and leaves, making the priest wonder as he goes back to the altar. Sitting on a rooftop, Elektra thinks before becoming Daredevil again. She carefully puts on the mask, makes sure it is tight. While doing this, she talks quietly, wondering if she could meet her loved one in another life. With her mask on, Elektra gets ready to jump from the rooftop. She lands gracefully and moves through the city below. Inside St. Margaret Mary's church, the blind priest talks with the father of the church. They chat about the priest going to St. Nicholas soon. The father doesn't want him to go because people really like him. The priest says he'll be gone just for a month. They joke a bit with the priest saying he might give the kids too much sugar. He pretends to be a bad guy in a playful way as he gets ready to leave. They get more serious as the father asks about the woman the priest talked to earlier. The blind priest isn't sure, but he thinks maybe she is also trying to find her way. After their talk, the blind priest says bye to the father and leaves the church. Outside, he remembers the smell of jasmine from before. He starts walking, hearing the city's noise around him, showing that life goes on. Amid the busy city sounds, the blind priest unwillingly witnesses a troubling scene nearby. Angry words fill the air as one person demands their debt to be repaid. The other person argues that they agreed on a payment by the end of the month. The situation gets worse as the debtor admits they don't have the money yet. Suddenly, violence breaks out as the creditor forcefully kicks the debtor in the stomach. The debtor begs for more time, but the request is ignored. With determination, the creditor grabs the debtor's hair and drags them into a nearby alley. In the midst of this disturbing sight, the blind priest feels a mix of emotions. His heightened senses lets him sense the violence in detail, and he can hear the victim's fast heartbeat from across the street. Caught between the distress he feels and his growing determination, the blind priest grapples with the intense sensation of the victim's racing heartbeat, pulsating within him. With resolve building up, he scans his surroundings for a way to step in and help. In a surprising turn of events, his searching hand comes upon a short red stick, reminiscing the iconic weapon used by the man without fear. Feeling a sense of destiny, the blind priest clutches the object and takes careful steps toward the dark entrance of the alley. This fusion of sound and purpose signals the rise of a potential new protector, ready to confront the shadows that threaten to engulf someone else's future. Is that mysterious person a reincarnation of Matt Murdock, or could he have similar powers as Daredevil? Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out when episode 15 drops. This is Carl, and see you in the next one.